Live. Okay. We are also live streaming this class on the Swami Satyamayananda channel. So we are live streaming it on two channels, Vedanta.org and Swami Satyamayananda. We have been discussing this Katha Upanishad for the last 20 classes. So this is the 21st class. And we are on the first chapter, second section, 22nd verse, which we had done a little, kind of discussed it a little. So we'll do the 21st, 22nd a little, and then proceed to the 23rd. The 22nd is, having meditated on the self as bodiless in the midst of bodies, as permanent in the midst of the impermanent, and as great and pervasive, the wise person does not grieve. A lot of things that are kind of mentioned here. The Sanskrit, as we can go through, Ashariram sharireshu anavasteshu avastitam mahantam vibhumatmanam matva dhiro na sochati. The Atman, by its nature, is indestructible, all pervasive, and that has been mentioned in the previous verses. So, why are these contradictory attributes given in this verse? As bodiless in the midst of bodies, as permanent in the midst of impermanent. We had discussed that consciousness has one primary aspect, and that is all pervasiveness. It's like the body is gross, and so it is delimited by space and time. It is not free to travel as it can. Yeah, you can use a plane, but then that's another kind of instrument. But the mind is more all pervading than the body. You see, your mind can kind of is more powerful, more having general consciousness, and it is more subtle, and it is more internal. So that which is internal is subtle, is more pervasive than the gross. And the Atman is even the most subtlest entity, if that can be called. But we have seen how this general kind of this all-pervading consciousness kind of particularizes, kind of becomes kind of narrowed down when it is associated with thoughts in the mind. Every thought in the mind, as it were, particularizes or limits, as it were, that general consciousness. And that's the reason why we have these contradictory definitions given. These are related to the limiting adjuncts of the mind. The mind is like this. Sometimes it's like this, sometimes it's like that. And consciousness appears to reflect that. The next line of the verse gives you that Atman is great and pervasive. Now, here it is. What is great and pervasive cannot be kind of limited within the body and limited within the mind, but it appears to have these kind of particularized limitations, as if it was dwelling in the body. Yet it is bodiless. It is dwelling in the impermanent, but itself is permanent. So, two entities, two levels of consciousness are given. One is of the mind, where consciousness gets limited, delimited, and one, the general consciousness, where consciousness is not limited by any kind of mind or intellect or ego or anything. So that's why, and a person who meditates on that great pervasive self, what happens? That person does not grieve. Why should he? It's a kind of a way of saying it. And that person becomes joyless. That person becomes joyful. Why? Because suddenly that person has found that the limitations that this person was laboring under, that I am a body, I have a name, I have an identity, I have this, I have that, I'm intelligent, I'm dull, I'm stupid, I'm this, I'm that. Suddenly, all these limitations which had made this person miserable are now gone off. That person becomes full of joy. And this is where we need to understand that this consciousness which is here is actually of our own nature. And it is very important to understand this. So the contradictory statements that have been made by these is because of these upadhis, limiting adjuncts. That, as it were, the sun is shining brightly and then there's an eclipse. And then what happens? The solar eclipse. And what happens? Well, the moon comes in between you and the sun. And for that moment, the whole sun's, you can say, light and heat and everything is eclipsed. That's what it is. So you don't say, oh, there's no sun at all. The sun is dark, or the sun has a ring, or the sun has a corona. No, it will pass. So similarly, we see this Atman as inhabiting bodies, though it is bodiless, beyond all bodies. Now, what types of bodies are there? The gross body, the subtle body, and the causal body in Vedanta. And beyond it is the Atman, or the waking state, the dream state, and the deep sleep state. This is what is called the fourth state. The fourth is called the Turiya. The Turiya is the Atman. And that is what the person saying, having meditated on the self. So we are supposed to meditate on the self as all pervading. You are not going to meditate on the self which is delimited. Right now, when we are supposed to meditate on our Ishta Devata, chosen ideal, you meditate on a form, but the idea behind this meditation has to be, this is that infinite Brahman that has taken this form out of compassion and love for me, so that I may reach. This is the kind of a medium. Got it? And that form, whether it's Shiva or Vishnu or Ramakrishna or the Divine Mother, is kind of drawing me towards, kind of compassionately, lovingly smiling. It's luminous. And as we meditate, as we get closer and closer and closer to that consciousness which is now limited by this name and form, we go beyond name and form. We transcend the mind even. We go to that fourth state. And that fourth state, that Atman, is where you finally kind of understand that that form which I was meditating on was just something that my mind needed to hold on to now. And after that, I transcend the mind. So that person becomes full of joy. So when we are meditating on that, we have to understand that that is bodiless in the midst of bodies, permanent in the midst of impermanent. Now, from the couple of other previous verses, we find two things. One is the aspirant has to be sincere. Secondly, it's not a cakewalk. Even if the aspirant is sincere, it's not easy. But does that mean it is impossible? No, it's not impossible. It is possible. Certain conditions are given in this next verse 23. What can actually help you realize this? People say, let us do japa, let us do meditation, let us read the scriptures, let us go to for pilgrimages, let us do penance, nothing. It shows, the next verse shows, this self cannot be known through much study, nor through the intellect, nor through much hearing the scriptures. It can be known through the self alone that the aspirant prays to. This self of that seeker reveals its true nature. Now this is the kind of a tremendous, you can say, statement, because it's asking you, the Vedas are sacred. These are the divine words, and these divine words have actually created the universe. The creation has arisen from this words of the Vedas, from the Vedas. It's considered so sacred, extremely sacred. And the study of this Vedas was considered not only the highest duty, obligation, but the aim of life. Study the Vedas. And here, this Upanishad say, Nayam Atma pravachanena labhyo. This Atman cannot be realized through much studies of the Vedas. Imagine. Not through the intellect, na medhaya. Medha is after you have studied, the power of understanding what you have studied is called a medha. It's a purified intellect, not an intellectual. As you keep on practicing continence, as you keep on meditating, as you keep on doing all your spiritual practices, a special nerve called the nerve of knowledge, medha, is awakened in the body. Through that, you know everything. Everything? Yes, you know everything through that medha. Then the Vedas also we have, if you have, I think you must have chanted Medha Devi, the goddess called Medha, intelligence, supreme intelligence. Medha, this is always also associated with Saraswati. So every spiritual aspirant has to have this nerve of intelligence, a Medha Nadi, awakened. Sri Ramakrishna also speaks about it. It's very important. Otherwise, scriptures, yes, I've studied the scriptures. Really, you've not studied. You've studied it like a parrot-like. So when crisis comes, there you're finished. You will squawk like a parrot when the cat comes. That thing has not become part of your personality, what you have studied. Medha does that. Through that, so because these things are mystical in nature, they are on one level printed words, yes, but the meaning is so deep, we'll need to have that tremendous insight into the meaning of those mystic words. So, no, not this Atman is not attained to too much studies, 24 years, 30 years, 40 years, 50 years. I've studied about the Atman for the last 50 years and I've not realized it. Really? Good for you. Not through this supreme intelligence and not through much hearing. Hearing of what? Vedas. Hearing the Vedic teachings. Even that will not do. It keeps you kind of afloat, keeps you on the track. But if you think these are the means to realize the Atman, no. In the life of Holy Mother and Ramakrishna, Mother say, do you think he can be brought with the number of japa you do? No. God cannot be realized through japa. It is kind of giving you it's a preparation. It's forming your character. It's helping you stay on the kind of path where you can suddenly realize. God cannot be. You think Swami Vivekananda gives two examples. Narada was kind of going to heaven, they call Vaikuntha. So one yogi says, hey Narada, where are you going? I'm going to meet Vishnu in Vaikuntha Loka. Okay, you ask him, when I will be free. The guy was meditating, as he was meditating. So sure, he goes a little further on, he sees a kind of a man dancing wildly, jerky movements. He's saying, salutations to you, O great sage, where are you going? I'm going to meet Vishnu in Vaikuntha Loka. Oh, please, do me a favor. What's that? Well, ask him when I will be free. Sure, I'll do that. So, Narada, the divine sage, he goes to Vishnu in his heaven, Vaikuntha. After he finishes whatever paying his visit and doing whatever business had to be transacted, he's on his way back. So he meets the first yogi who was meditating. Did you ask about my freedom? Saying, yes, you will have a couple of more births. What? And he starts weeping and wailing. I've prayed and meditated so long, and yet I have a couple of more births, 3 or 4 more births. He was completely distraught. And Narada, weeping and wailing. He goes to the next yogi who was dancing and singing. So he asks, Narada, did you ask about my liberation? What did the Lord say? Well, the Lord said, there's a kind of a tree in India called a tamarind tree. A kind of a very sour kind of fruit. And it has a speciality. It has very small leaves, tiny leaves. Millions of them. Each kind of stalk has millions. So saying, he said, you'll have to come repeatedly here up till the number of the leaves in this tree. And the yogi was so thrilled. Oh, so quickly. It's almost now over for me. And he starts dancing and then the then the kind of ethereal voice that comes in, my son, you will be free right now. Because this guy was able to hold himself and say, I am going to persist through all these numerous, countless births till I reach God. And he was delighted at it. The other guy was kind of morose. So the moment you have, yeah, I'm going to have it right now, the moment you have it right now, that is going to persist through all these things. These conditions have been given, like the study of the Vedas, understanding their import, much hearing of the Vedas. This is the kind of the elite class of aspirants who do this. And even if this is not possible, the realization of not possible, even for these elite means, for the class of aspirants, what to speak about the ordinary guys who will go and pray, oh, you see, I've got a headache, oh God, give me this. The shopkeeper's religion. I'll pray, give me this and give me that. No. All shopkeeping, all small ideas about God and about the means, about the realization, all dismissed. Why? Yeah. So what is the means? There is only one. So he says, it can be known through the self alone that the aspirant prays to. This self of that seeker reveals its true nature. Now, this is a tremendous statement. You will realize that consciousness, your own consciousness, through your own consciousness. No other means. And in the literature, the Vedantic literature will say, you will find this constantly harped. You will realize consciousness through your own consciousness, not any small means. Study of the Vedas, understanding the Vedas, or going on pilgrimages, doing fast and doing penances, doing vigils. What's this? And see, this is what he's saying. It will reveal itself to you when you seek it, when you pray for it, when you desire it. You have given up all other desires. The other means have all been discarded. You want to only realize that self. You have become kind of free. That self reveals itself to you. This verse also appears in another Upanishad called the Mundaka Upanishad. And there the interpretation is slightly kind of different. So what is trying to tell you? You got to recognize yourself. Recognize myself? Yes, it's called, in Vedanta it's called pratyabhijna. Recognizing oneself. How do I do that? Well, all the things that you have acquired in your mind through all these kind of disciplines, even these disciplines are inadequate. Finally, you have to come down to your own consciousness, recognize your own consciousness, and that is revealed. So there are kind of, as it were, two entities. One, the individual soul. That prays. It can be known through the self alone that the aspirant prays to. It means there is a entity that prays, and there is an entity that reveals itself. Are these two entities different? Relatively speaking. And that's the trouble with all of us. If we are the jiva, the individual soul, that's not going to free us. We are not free, we are bound. So, this individual soul prays to one's own supreme self, that higher self, the Atman or the Brahman. And that Atman, Brahman revealed itself. If you desire to know it, you pray for it, it reveals itself. In that way, it is not an acquisition, it is only recognizing yourself as I was just a kind of a reflection of that Supreme Soul, and I was, as it were, disassociated from it, and I want to return to my real state. All of us are doing it in a way. We want to get back to our real nature. And what is the real nature there? It reveals itself. Oh, you want me? We are so busy with hundreds of things. And nature says, you want a chocolate? Here it is. And then after, you want a gingerbread? Take it. You want this, you want that? Take. Whatever you ask, and it shall be given. They say in the Sermon on the Mount. Actually, it happens. It might take, depends on the intensity of your prayers or your wish, it might take some time, but even in external nature, that means the good things, that will not kind of disrupt things. Okay. There are some people who wish ill of others. That is kind of not relevant here. So if you wish to return back to your own self, to your real nature, that self will reveal itself. The moment you say, I want to go back home, Sri Ramakrishna says, the child is busy playing with a red toy, and then it gets bored, it starts weeping and wailing. And then the moment it starts weeping and wailing, what happens is, the mother comes and lifts the child up. We need to be like that. You need to kind of desire that, pray for that. So that's why Nayam Atma Pravachenanena Labhya Namedayana Bahuna Shrutena Yame Vaisha Vrinute Tena Labhya Tasyaisha Atma Vivrinute Tanung Swam. So tremendous. To that, it reveals its true nature. Tanum Swam. Tanum is a kind of a form. It reveals itself to that. Yam. Yam is this Atman. So, who the Aisha, this person, this soul, the individual soul is praying for it to return back to it. The child is tired and wants to return home. Had enough of play. We've gone through enough of lifetimes playing around. We want to go back now. And this going back is religion. Swami says, once you understand that now you want to go back to your source, this is real religion. And as you keep on going deeper and deeper, that self reveals itself to you. As how? It reveals itself gradually. Oh, yes. So long you weren't giving so much emphasis or value on something like truth or goodness. But now it's become so important, integral to you. Yes, there's no doubt, truth is. Slowly your value systems are changing, your ideas of values are changing. The value that you used to give for things worldly have now been withdrawn. You are now slowly giving highest value to certain things that will cultivate your inner life. These are now becoming important. Worship, prayer, japa, and this and that, they have become important. There was a time when we used to, oh, yeah, I have to got to do it because my guru has told me. My guru has, I've got to do that. No. Now, you've got to do that. It's integral. I remember one old monk telling me, senior monk, he's not old. So he's saying, there was a time when, you do your morning meditation and evening meditation. Perfunctorily. That is okay, you got to do it. Now, every day, it has become an imperative. It's a need, imperative need, that I have to do meditation. Why? Because of what I am. Like he's a monk. What I am first. I've got to protect these ideas of religion. Secondly. Thirdly, these have now become part of, it's part, like you're breathing. You might not realize at times that you're breathing. When somebody says, are you breathing? Oh, take a deep breath. Or there's some kind of tightness in the chest and you suddenly feel hard to breathe. Then you feel, what's the value of breathing. So breathing has become part of you. It's like that. Those things have become part of you. Why? Because you simply want to return back to yourself. And that self is revealing itself to you in these ways, slowly, slowly. Finally, like a drop of water or a raindrop that falls into an ocean, that is what happens. When the drop is falling down, it will see, wow, that's a big ocean. I thought they were only clouds. and I was falling down, couldn't understand what things were. Now I see the ocean. Wow, the ocean has revealed itself to me. Why? Because the cloud cover has gone off. I'm approaching closer and closer and closer to my source. And I thought that ocean was small. Now I see it's huge and huge and huge. So this self, for many, it revealed itself gradually. And that is spiritual progress. You want to know spiritual progress? Spiritual progress comes as much as the self reveals itself to you. You progress. It's a kind of a carrot and stick, There's a kind of a carrot being kind of swung in front of you. And you want to get it, and you keep on. That will tell you what it is. It's an inner development. Your personality will change. That's definite. If your personality does not change, the self is not revealing itself to you. Simple as that. So vrinute, they say, is reveals, one prays to. So labhya is not to attain, it's to be known. You don't acquire it. You don't acquire your own self. You know your own self. The word attain or gain should be understood like that. You realize yourself. So there's a kind of a self-revelation going on. And that's why Sri Ramakrishna, when on the 1st of January, how he blessed people? He says, Tumar Chaitanya Hok. That is, may your inner consciousness be awakened. That's a tremendous statement. He never gave anything else. He did for others, but his words were, may your inner consciousness be awakened. He was giving this, the self-revelation, and he himself revealed himself on that day. People thought that he was a priest of that temple who was struck with cancer and is suffering and is about to die. There he revealed himself. Hey, I'm not the guy that you've been thinking about. And you will also one day realize, I am not the guy that I have been thinking about. Ah, and then the whole thing drops. Then what? You return back to yourself, or the self is known to you. So it is you you recognize your universal consciousness. It has to be done through your own consciousness, the reflected consciousness, which of course is what is called the individual soul. So that's why Swami Vivekananda says, you actually pray to your own self. All the power is there within you. When you pray, he's saying in the Raj Yogi says, the Kundalini answers the prayer. The coiled up power answers your prayers. That self within you is as it was sleeping. In the Bhagavad Gita also it says, it gives it that sleeping soul. Even Swami Vivekananda, that sleeping soul is roused to self-conscious activity. Everywhere you have this kind. Is it sleeping? It's not revealed itself. And that's why it is sleeping, it is dormant as it were. And the moment you want it, it awakens. And you got to know it, you pray for it, desire it. No other means will do. How about meditating for 24 hours? Will I realize my Atman? No. Pray for it intensely, want it, long for it. And that's why in the life of Sri Ramakrishna you find it was just his longing, Vyakulata, nothing else, that gave his first vision of the Divine Mother. Just longing. I want to see you. Simple as that. In Vedanta, that desire for liberation, you remember the fourth, you can say, condition, mumukshutvam, the desire for liberation. The desire for liberation will lead you to this. The self will reveal itself to you. So, okay, this self or this Atman cannot be known through much study, obviously, nor through the intellect, medha, that purified intellect, nor through much hearing. It can be known through the self alone, through the Atman alone, that the aspirant prays to. So you want to know your own Atman. This self of the seeker reveals its true nature. Now, in our case, when we say, well, we are praying to Sri Ramakrishna, we are not praying to ourselves. No, Ramakrishna is that Atman for you. Ramakrishna? What's Ramakrishna? He is your Atman. Oh, yeah, that's it. So what about my Atman? Your Atman? You want to see your Atman? There's a kind of a slight kind of a veil that's come between you, yourself, and that's Maya that creates that kind of an illusion. And then when you go, you see Swami Shivananda Mahapurush Maharaj said, don't worry, you keep on doing all these things. Don't you know that we are parts of that Sri Ramakrishna? There it is. One day you'll also find, oh, we are parts of that Ramakrishna. That Ramakrishna is my Atman. And that Atman itself is that Brahman. So why has this Atman taken this form? In order to reveal itself, in order for you to seek for it. That's important. Now you have a kind of a definite path, a definite name, a definite means. Do it, and as you keep on going deeper and deeper and deeper, you will see that Ramakrishna as your Atman, and that Atman will reveal itself to you. It cannot be brought by any other things, any other means. Just longing. Okay. So this is. Now, there is a spoiler alert, as they say. Hey, what's that? Why should they put a kind of a spoiler alert? As we keep on desiring, there are certain conditions now put here. And what are the conditions? We'll take it up extensively next time, but one who has not desisted from bad conduct, whose senses are not under control, whose mind is not concentrated, whose mind is not free from the anxiety about the results of concentration, cannot attain this Atman through knowledge. There you are. Spoiler. Spoilers ahead. Na virato duscharita, na shanto na samahita, na shantamanaso vapi, prajnanaina apnuyat. So one who has not desisted from bad conduct, na aviroto, one who has not kind of pulled back from bad conduct, one whose senses are not under control, one whose mind is unsteady, not concentrated. And even if you have concentrated, if your mind is concentrated, when like you, when will I realize it? So, whose mind is not free from the anxiety about the result of concentration. It's just keeping you in mind, probably. Not we all of us. Oh, I have prayed so much, I've meditated so much. And when is that thing going to come? When is it going to reveal itself? It's been years now. Oh, what's that? So the anxiety or the restlessness about the results of meditation, concentration, that also has to be. Finally, they say, even the desire to see God is a desire at one point of time, it kind of vanishes, as it were. And your whole soul, as it were, is now pouring in the infinite ocean of God. Yeah. So when you are meditating, don't think about the results of meditation, okay? So today I did so much, tomorrow I'm going to do a little more. But I did it well yesterday. I never got any result today. So this is the kind of the conditions. One who has not pulled away, desisted from bad conduct. Why? Because simply that person is still kind of chasing the chimeras, the dreams, and the illusions, and the mirages. Obviously, that guy is busy with that. You think this guy is going to come back? Once he finishes off it, then he'll come back. Whose senses are not under control, that person has not kind of, okay, I've done with all these things, and then trying to meditate. And the senses are still under control. Like all the motor organs are controlled, like we see in the Gita. But the sensory organs and the mind are still not controlled. That person keeps on thinking about all these things in the mind. He lives all those experiences in the mind. He desires things in the mind. That person is called a hypocrite, mityachara, as the Bhagavad Gita says. So, that guy also is out. Then, whose mind is not concentrated, obviously. I'm trying to meditate and then I fall asleep. And then you wake up, I was actually meditating. No, you were asleep. You put a kind of a camera there and, hey, you see, you were meditating, and then you see the guy was fast asleep, sitting down. That's So if the mind is, because that is the strength of, you can say, the blow that you are going to use, yeah, to enter into the deeper portals of yourself. So a person has to be concentrated. Simple as that. At the same time, the person should not be eager about the results of that concentration. So that's why, whose mind is not free from the anxiety about the result of the concentration. These people cannot attain the Atman. This self that is being considered through knowledge. They cannot attain that, they cannot attain that knowledge. You cannot, that knowledge does not come to them. Simple as that. So, you know what has to be done. Simple, now do it. I think we can stop here for now. We'll take this up next Wednesday, and we will also take the last verse in this section. We'll take a little more of this because this needs a little elaboration. Take this, and then we'll proceed to the third section. In the meantime, this is a kind of an announcement. We will have the Bhagavad Gita class live stream tomorrow, 7:30 p.m. from here. And so this will continue till we are under the lockdown or stay-at-home orders put in by the government. And every Wednesday, we are live streaming it on Vedanta.org channel as well as the Swami Satyamayananda channel. There is a little problem with this kind of connection. Keeps on snapping and returning. Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Tat Sat Shri Ram Krishna